These are the parts I received for my handguards for my KTM 530. Here are the tools I utilized, along with some lubricating and cleaning fluids for the job. Alright, the first step is going to be to remove the old handguards. Remove the old bar end inserts. From both sides. Alright, now that we have the old handguards off, we're going to check and see the throttle tube, make sure it's inside the end of the bar. The old handguards had a spacer that allowed the throttle tube to actually slide over it. As you can see, the throttle tube is flush and it needs to be back, so we're going to make an adjustment with the throttle tube so that it is at least 1/16 of an inch clearance for the new handguards. Now we can see that the throttle tube has been moved back so that there will be room for the handguards when they come flush. It won't bind on the throttle tube anymore. Alright, the next step is to thread the bar end. I have taken the tap and the insert and made a mark about 4 threads in where the threads become full on the tap and the length of it, so I don't have to tap the bar too deep. If you've ever broken one of these off in a hole, you know exactly just how hard it is to get the pieces of the tool steel out. It also says to use an 11mm socket. I don't have that, so I have a gear wrench and also a crescent wrench for a little bit longer handle on the piece here. We're going to use some cutting oil here. Get the tap nice and lubed up in it. Stick it in the bar end here. Try and line it up as best as possible to shoot down the hole. About there is where it gets kind of tough with the gear wrench. The biggest thing that breaks the tap is not the twisting, it's actually pulling down out here without supporting here, and the side load on the tap. So as long as you support it, so you're not putting all that leverage on it, just twisting it should be good. Now the tap has made it to the mark I put. So we'll back the tap out. Alright, I'm going to clean the chips out of the hole just using some brake clean. Be cautious when using any of these cleaning products, and some of them react very adversely to plastics, so we're going to be careful not to get it anywhere else on the bike. Add a little bit of compressed air. Also being cautious as to what's on the other end of the handlebar, where it's all going. Now we're going to check and make sure we have enough room for the adapter to thread in. Remember, it is supposed to be slightly beyond the end of the bar. As you can see, we're not flush with the end of the bar. We are in roughly a 1/16 of an inch. Alright, I'm going to start, before we even go to put the top clamp on, by pre-assembling the swivel boss and the top clamp. Bolt washer. This is just going to make it a little bit easier instead of fighting it down in there behind the headlight. For the other side. Alright, set that aside for the moment. Alright, before we take the 4 bolts off for the top clamp, I don't want to lose the position of my handlebars. So take a Sharpie and just make a little mark down and over, and that tells me where it is on the clamp, and I'm going to do just a little one on both sides. Alright, once you have your mark in here, then we'll go ahead and remove the 4 bolts to hold the top, that clamp the handlebar down here. Alright, now the real fun part of the project starts, where we actually start putting parts back on the bike. Going to start by putting our new top clamp down here. As you can see, when I started doing that, the handlebars and stuff started moving around. That's why we put the marks there, so we can put it back where we want it. Alright, I'm going to move the handlebars back to where they were. Alright, now I'm going to install the inserts in the handlebars. Making sure that it's slightly beyond the end of the handlebar. And I'll do the same thing to the other side. Now I'm going to install the handguard portion. I have a bolt and washer for the swivel boss end and also the bar end. Insert it underneath behind my headlight. Run the bar end bolt in. Now I don't tighten any of this down really hard until I have it all installed and lined up. Keeps you from having to loosen everything back up because you were off just a little bit with one of your other ones. Now on a KTM, it's nice and easy to remove the headlight to get to those next two bolts. There's just two little rubber straps that secure the headlight. And it is forward far enough to get to the bolts. Alright, now I'll do the same thing to the other side. On the other side, I've had to remove my clutch lever. I'm going to figure out where that's going to fit best once I get the hand guard on. Alright, now that I have all of the bolts in place, go ahead and tighten them down. Alright, do the same thing to the other side. Now to deal with my problem of the clutch line. As you can see, it used to run right through where the swivel boss and the handguard connects. So we're going to have to play around with a couple different options here, decide if it's best to route it inside, over, or under, and we'll show you a picture when we get done with that. Alright, so what I opted to do with the clutch routing here was just to go over the top of the boss and handguard. It's really close to the angle I want. If I choose to move it down a little bit farther, what I'll end up doing is ordering about a 30-degree swivel for here, head that down below the handguard. But as you can see, the angle is not too bad. The actual end of the fitting is back in here, and then this is rubber support on the hose. So I think this is going to work just fine for me. Alright, now it's time to install the mirrors. Got myself a ratchet with the appropriate size Allen. Threading it in. Just gonna keep tightening it until I get the desired resistance on the swivel for the mirror. And there we go. You can stow the mirror away or bring it out for use. Stow that up in there. Now it's time to install the handguard. Because we use the mirror, it has the nut sticking out there, so we will put that, a washer, and the nut to start. If you didn't have the mirror, you would do the same for both the inboard and outboard, the washer, and the bolt. The inboard bolt, or Allen head screw if you want to call it that, and a washer. And just like that, handguard's installed. Do the same for the other side. Here's the completed hand guards installed on my KTM.